Good day, everybody. Omar back again with the Me Time web series. So, if you watched last episode, then you would really see that we are getting into some good meat here. There's some good stuff, not only something you can learn, something you can take away, but then the idea is to apply it. So, to continue on to this Me Time series, I want to just take a moment to maybe do like a little breath meditation, right? Let's just take 3 breaths together, everybody, because we're talking me time. Why don't we just give you a little understanding of that? So, really quickly, I want you to take a deep breath into your nose and out of your mouth. Just make it easy. Let's take one more into the nose, out of your mouth. One more time, and out of your mouth. That's right. See, we just wanted to give you a little practice of what me time is because, as you know, as we've been moving forward with this me time campaign, we've been not only trying to understand what it means to have self care, but we also really understand the vitality of our mental health. If you saw any of the funny posts or things on TikTok and IG that people are posting about going back to work and the stressors of it pretty much will say that no one's going back to work. So we want to try to be a liaison in that, right? So we want to help people to understand not only is your me time the most important thing that you should actually focus on, but it also will help you in many areas of your life to make you feel better, to give you more confidence, to help you understand what it is that you are here for on this particular plane. And from there, it's really about just diving into you. That's it. And so with today's show, it's going to be really, really fun, really, really charismatic because our next guest, Dapphnee Pierre, is someone who I personally admire.
Let's
Daphne,
try
what's
it
going
again.
on?
Hi, how are you? How's it going?
We're good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, yeah, we're actually super excited to have you. It's one of those times in life where right now everybody's trying to reset, right? Everybody's trying to stop and build something new for themselves. And I definitely want
hmm
to get into that idea for your 2021 journey. But before we do that, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what you do, what you're about, give people a little taste of Daphne.
Okay, so I am the head of finance at Mass Appeal. For those who don't know, that is an entertainment company and Nas's record label. So I head up the media agency division as well as the record label. Um, it's a very I don't want to say it's a stressful job. It's not. It's actually a wonderful job. I love it, but it's a lot of we're in a growth year and we have a lot of exciting things happening. So being that we have so much going on and we kind of run a little lean. It's just I'm stretched very thin at times. In addition, in addition to that, I'm also a compliance officer with a nonprofit organization called Go On Girl Book Club. It's a it's a women only book club where we read books only of the African diaspora, lifting up Black authors and publishers. I'm very proud of that. I've been part of the organization now going on 2 years. I also participate in activities such as conversations with authors. When I'm not doing that, I am a mom to my beautiful son, who's 4 years old. His name is Greyson, and my two bonus daughters, who are 13 and 21. And my husband,
Hmm.
of course, who I love and lovingly call Mr. Babe. And when I'm not being CEO and kissing boo boos and playing soccer mom and being karate mom or advisor to my college daughter who be driving me crazy sometimes, or my emo stepdaughter who's 13. When I'm not doing that, I'm also a volunteer at a food pantry nearby at my church, non-denominational church, and I have a community there. And when I'm not doing that, I am trying. I run 5Ks. I ran a few this year throughout the pandemic, and I box occasionally.
Yeah.
Love boxing and mixed martial arts. And now that my son's
Mhm.
into karate, I'm like coaching him, so that's
Yeah.
been fun. And what else do I do? And then when I'm not doing all of those things, when I'm not doing all those things, I'm calling you to stress you out about my life because I can't handle anything, and or being advisor to my friends. I'm
Yeah.
we're all approaching or in our early 40s right now, and so we're hitting this
Yeah.
this new, I call the enlightenment stage. Like we're finally learning ourselves and knowing what we're not going to
Mm-hmm.
stand for. And
Facts.
so that's
Facts.
pretty much me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and I don't know if you guys noticed, but that nutshell just compacted, right? There's a lot of stuff in there, and you know, I'm grateful that you reach out to me at times whenever we need to just powwow or you need to get something off your chest because community, that's what we're all about, and we all need people, and we all need somebody to reflect with. So I've been that's actually been a very great part of what how we not only how we met, but also the continuing of our relationship of just supporting each other, and we've always shown that reflection. Now the next question, which is funny, is what does a typical day look like for you? But I think with the roundabout nutshell of all the things that you do, everyone can possibly imagine that being in your position and also being a mom and a wife and all the other things that you want to do in your community. I would imagine that you have a lot on your plate at times.
That's an understatement. My cup overfloweth with things.
Mm,
So no one day looks the same for me. I had to reset my mind to look forward to waking up in the morning because I knew
mhm.
once my feet touch the floor that is it. My day typically starts. I struggle to wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person at all, and it takes me a while to get things done to get started.
Yeah.
So my day literally starts around maybe 7ish in the morning. I mean, I set my alarm. I snooze 55 times between 5:30 and 7:30, and get my son ready for school, breakfast, all that. Like once I got him either out the door, whether I drop him off or my husband does, then it's working myself up to work out. I
Yeah.
am part of the Peloton cult, so I try to get on the Peloton for about 45 minutes, and then
That's great.
I try to avoid looking at my emails. What I really started to do was be more mindful in the morning. Like that,
Yeah.
how you start your day will set the tone for your day. So I try not to look at emails, look at social media. I literally will just focus on what's going on at home and what's going on with
Yeah.
me. I do a check in. How
Hmm.
am I feeling right now? If I'm waking up feeling sluggish, I'm like, well, why is that? Right? I'll look,
Yeah.
do an inventory of the day before. Did I eat
Hmm.
horribly?
Hmm.
What am I not going to repeat? What am I not bringing into today? I'll try to do something like a quick 5-minute meditation or prayer or both.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and prayer isn't always like getting on your knees and signing the cross and calling out to God. Sometimes it could be writing a letter. Like I get my thoughts off my chest by writing to Jesus. He's my
Right.
pen pal. I write him, and I'll just get my feelings off. Right after doing that,
Yeah.
I'll come to, then I'll work out. Once I work out, I pretty much feel better. I know that I
Yeah.
feel better. So it's really, and I was telling my husband actually yesterday, I was like, that's really the hardest part about working out is starting. Once you're in it,
Only.
yeah, that's it. So once I do that, have breakfast, what have you, now I'm like, I have anxiety because I know my emails are blowing up. I haven't done that. So I have to talk to myself into it's going to be okay, whatever it is going to be. And now I start checking the emails.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes me a while to even get through that because I have like 100 emails. So I actually learned from a friend of mine, Marjorie, if you're watching this at some point, she's a kick-ass attorney. She has this rule where she goes through emails and she goes, um, basically it's just putting them into 3 buckets. Is it something urgent, something to delegate, or something I can look at later and only address the
Mm,
priority ones? That if you ever, for those who have like a ton of emails, half of it is nonsense. It's people replying. Um, so you just need to like, replying thanks or whatever. So just you can
yeah.
go past it, and then you just flag them, right? And then I move on to my priority of the day. It's usually putting out some type of fire, um, and then moving on to my tasks. Now I'm a big um, to do list person, and I love stationaries. So like I literally have like papers and lots of lists
Yeah.
everywhere. And then I also use a Monday project management board. So I'm like, putting that on
That's
there,
great.
trying to stay as organized as possible. And then I tackle the day.
Wow.
Now the struggle that I have is ending the day. I'm too accessible. too accessible.
Oh
So
man. Oh
working at home has been that struggle for me because I'm working from home. So I already took care of my son and I'm also taking care of household things, whatever, appointments,
yeah.
etc., grocery shopping, all that in between working, stopping at some point to pick up my son from school or handling dinner and or order dinner because I could barely cook sometimes. And then once
Yeah.
all of that is said and done, bedtime is done, I'm back on the computer again. So I don't really end my day until like midnight.
Daphne, you are preaching to so many people right now. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually one of them. A lot of people, they, whenever like someone like myself who works in mental health and wellness, and I'm literally teaching people how to be mindful and self-aware.
Hmm.
That don't mean that I don't feel emotions, y'all. Like people like feel like every time before I have a show, I have anxiety.
Mm.
Um, Whenever, let's say if, since we're, as an entrepreneur who's remote, working from home, um, like something that can trigger me from my spouse, or my kids, they can trigger me. And suddenly, like, I can't literally focus on anything that I need to do for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm trying to get myself in a space where I can do that, but I'm still upset with them. And I'm trying to let that go while I'm still having to talk to people. And so people don't realize that it takes a consistent conversation with myself, just like how you were saying, like you're doing that check-in, and also processes. Like everything you said
Yeah.
was a process, and
Yeah.
that's your process, right? So if you don't have that initial process to at least guide or navigate your day, then everything is going to just pull you like, oh, that, this is too much. And
Yeah.
just like you said, like there are times me and Micah get off, we're like, yo, it's like 6, we got to go get dinner for the family. I'll be on at 9,
Mhm.
or or I'm gonna go back editing at 9, so I'll be on Slack. Holler at me on Slack, right?
Mhm.
And so no matter what, another part of this concept of not only as an entrepreneur but as someone in your position where you're not only liaisoning your schedule, but you have to manage and make sure that everybody in the organization is cool too. And that is not a one thing. That's not like a one path fix all type of situation.
No.
And so
No.
everything that you just said, I really do hope y'all out there just taking this in, because she just described that she created a process for herself, and processes grow and they get better.
Mhm.
And so you just have to start and understand that there has to be something for your day. She has some specific. She wakes up in the morning time, and that's beautiful. And Daphne, no lie, you've pretty much just tackled my life. Just everything you said. It's just like, oh, that's exactly what I go through on a daily basis. That's crazy. From parenting
Yeah.
to being a spouse to literally trying to be my best self in the middle of all that. And
Well, you know what sucks is that we all are going through some kind of issue, right?
yeah,
But we're too busy to even talk about it a lot of the times because we're all pretty much trained to think like, well, be grateful because you're working, or be grateful because
yeah, right.
because there are people out there who aren't, unfortunately, or be grateful you have a family that you can take care of,
Yeah,
because also in my role, not just as head of finance, I'm also HR, so I'm also taking in a lot of people's crap,
stuff. Yeah,
right? Like yesterday, case in point, I had to deal with an issue, with an employee, not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and their boss was like, "Hey, listen, we're gonna need you to have a conversation." And one thing I said I was not doing this year, and I'm not, I'm an empath, and I tend to put
mm,
I take on people's feelings and energy.
mm,
I feed off of it, and I had to kind of say, well, that's not serving me. I actually got that from watching Succession. What
yeah,
the attorney, she was telling Roman, for those who watch the show, and he's there. He was like, one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, how does it serve my interest?
mm,
And I took that, and I was like, that is true. Like I have to wear so many hats professionally and personally.
yeah,
It sounds selfish, but that's the
mm,
point. You have to kind of be like, okay, well, how does this serve my interest? And I have to delegate. I have to be like, well, no, I got to empower this manager to take more of an active role in their leadership, and don't have to include me so early on in a situation. And I'm like, so why don't
yeah,
you? And I just gave an example to do something, and I said, how about try this first before you include me in that? And if this doesn't work, we may have to escalate to me, but it doesn't have to be a quick run. Because if I had to stop to handle something that you could have done, that's now pushing myself back even more.
Yeah.
This is not, this
And
is new. This is like in the last couple of days, I just came to these realizations. This is not something I
yeah,
knew
that's
going
great.
forward, but yeah.
But that's also one of the main things about teamwork too, right? Sometimes, in my experience too, people will push things that are difficult for them to handle onto someone else because they may not want to actually deal with it, or
Or they how
it's
to.
and that's the other thing. But like you said, you just said something super key, especially for someone in your role, that you empower them to do so. Like, yeah, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be contention sometimes because we're a community. We have different ideas and opinions, and sometimes
Mhm.
people don't do what they need to do for
Mhm.
whatever the reason. Maybe they don't understand what they need to do. Just like we said, maybe they didn't have clear comprehension.
Mhm.
Maybe they were just procrastinating. Maybe they was on Facebook. I don't know. But the conversation to to actually bring it up and address it, that confrontational part, right? That's where people,
Yeah.
especially as managers, they sometimes it's either super aggressive or super passive aggressive.
Mhm.
But a lot of times it just really needs to be like a straight up one-on-one conversation. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Honestly, it's just to protect yourself. Like one of the key things I recently learned about self care. Self care isn't always, taking the bubble baths or taking the long walks.
it
I mean, it is. I love it, but
is. Just love it.
self care could sometimes be just simply saying no.
Thank
That's it,
you. Thank
and that's what
you.
I
It's
I
period.
recently learned that it's no. It's a full sentence, and it's
You know.
okay. Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, that was a big one for me. And I think it's really important that people also comprehend that. When I learned how no was not a thing that was put on me as a man who's trying to be contentious because I'm just like saying no. Like, no, I actually don't think that that's good for me. And once I
Mhm.
started learning no, people was not feeling me saying no to them because I didn't even give an explanation. I'd just be like, nah, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then whenever they ask me why, and I gave my honest opinion or my honest like reason for not wanting to do something, they get offended because I'm like, well, I actually don't think that that serves me as a person. I'm being very specific about the things that I choose in my life right now, and that's going to actually be too much for me, and it's going to cause resentment in me towards you.
Mhm.
Do we want to go there? And they're like, well, dang, why you got to think so deep about it? I'm like, deep about it? I'm trying to tell you how I feel. Like, and so
Because
once again, that's self
we're conditioned to
care.
not be selfish. Like that saying
Yeah.
no and saying
Yo,
that it doesn't serve me sounds selfish, and
Daphne,
that's a chain that we need to break.
you, Daphne, we literally had the same conversation in the last
Mhm.
Me Time episode with True, where we were talking about the concept of selfishness is has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But if I don't take care of Omar first and do what's best for Omar, I will literally be a bad Omar, a bad dad, a bad
Mhm.
husband, a bad boss, a bad community organizer. Like I will not be okay. And I've seen that side of myself.
Yeah.
So it's like I need to take care of me.
Well,
And
I
so
saw it with my
selfishness,
parents. I saw it with
yeah.
my parents. My parents, are very selfless people. Specifically my mom. Like she would, I mean, whatever you needed, it was at the detriment of the family, but it's because she's serving somebody else, it's okay. And it affected our relationships in our family. And
Mm,
after I've worked on myself and worked on things and started to notice that I was developing those same patterns with fights with my
mm,
husband, fights with friends of mine, and realizing like, wait, I'm not present enough. I'm not doing something. I'm like, well, we have to break this cycle and realizing that no, it's you have to be okay. Like you have to be okay first, and that's a
yeah.
struggle because you're breaking a
So
condition, something
many,
that you've been
yeah.
conditioned to do. So your body, your mind
Since
is all fighting with that concept to break away from
complete,
that. It's
completely.
challenging, and
But
I'm still doing it, but I'm trying to
yeah,
work away from that.
well, I think that, we're at a place not only for us as people of color, but for us as our, like you said, our age, right? We are in a space where not only have we learned certain things about ourselves, but we also recognize that we have influence and affluence. And we also have built a community that
Hmm.
reflects the stuff that we are looking to do. So it's not easy, and it's not ever going to be easy. There's this really great saying within Buddhism that says, "Chop wood, carry water." You become enlightened. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Like, just because you're enlightened doesn't mean that you're not going to have feelings. Doesn't mean that somebody's not going to scream in your face and you're not going to be get upset about that. It does not mean that you're going to have a microaggression come at you in the office. It does not mean that you're going to have to deal with some bullying in the school. Whatever. It's just about how you react and how
Yeah.
we respond. And
Yeah.
we've been taught to react in such a way that has always been generationally like pushed on us. But
Mhm.
and I even see it in how my, I don't want to say my mom per se, but how my older generation that influenced me, they think that I speak with like privilege, or like they sometimes think that I'm crazy because I'm talking stuff that is not related to our past blackness,
Mhm.
which is rooted in trauma. And I'm
Mhm.
like, why we always got to talk about trauma though? Why you
Mhm.
got to always bring up the time when I got whooped or I got so and so and this and that? But that is that conditioning, right? That is that, and it's happened to us. And so now we're in the position to we can undo that and show our children like, yo, you don't have to, you don't have to think that way. Like, you really
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And we're showing our kids to prioritize yourself. Like,
Very
prioritize
true.
yourself. Very,
Very
very
true.
simple. Like, I want my son to like my two sons. I want them always to know that if you ain't good, then look around. You ain't gonna be nice to nobody. And we
Mhm.
we say it all the time. Hurt people hurt people.
I make
But
my son. I mean, he's 4, but I make him do a. I call it a reset. The minute he
yeah,
wakes up in the morning, he has attitude. I go, no, I need you to go back upstairs, start this over. Because what you're not gonna do is bring that energy down here. I did it to him the
yeah,
other day. He looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "You'll get
yeah.
it one day. You gotta start it
Oh,
from
same
now."
thing with our boys. Same thing with our boys. But we're also teaching them accountability, and that's something we did not necessarily get from that same lesson. Is like, be accountable for how you feel. Be accountable for what you're doing with yourself. Be accountable for your shitty actions, because sometimes we do make like I've made so many mistakes. I've hurt people. I've fought people physically, emotionally,
Mhm.
uh, like so many things that the old Omar, people are always like, "Oh, you've grown so much," and I'm like, Yes, I have. Yes, I have, and
Mhm.
I am so grateful for it
Yeah.
because I was built in a system that showed me how to react, and
Mhm.
I'm just grateful now. Now we can have that conversation, but let's go ahead and move on to some other questions because right
Sure.
now what we really want to focus on is the reality of our current situation with COVID and the what is now being jokingly put off as the Omarion
The
and not the
Omarion.
Omicron.
Mhm.
Yeah, and but it's also causing a lot of people stress. It's causing a lot of people to get sick. I mean, for me, I'm just trying to be as mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in my own right, and
Mhm.
that's helped me. But I'm curious to know, like, how has COVID, from the beginning to now, how has it affected your family and your work life?
Actually, I'm one of the few people that COVID didn't. I mean, it affected me in the beginning,
Yeah.
but I was very intentional, and I say this in boldface. I was very intentional about how this was going to impact me. So just to give you some context, when the first variant occurred, I was in another role, not happy, and was just really in a bad space. Um, and then it became a blessing for me, in all
Mm,
honesty, because um, the COVID happened. I lost my job. About 2 or 3 days later, my husband caught COVID. So now I'm freaking out because we don't know what this is, and I don't know if he's gonna die, right? So he
Jesus.
had it, his mom had it, my mom had it. Both are in the healthcare field. I'm trying to protect my son at the time who was 2, and he's asthmatic. So it affected people with pulmonary issues. So I'm afraid that
Yep.
trying to keep him apart, trying to keep this house together. I'm trying to do all things, and I was not
Mhm.
good for like the first few weeks. And finally, I sat in my kitchen one night while everybody was asleep, and I wrote down everything that I wanted. I was like, I don't care that this is a pandemic. This is not going to affect us. And I literally sat down and wrote everything that I wanted to achieve over the next year, and what plan this
Mm.
was for me and how am I going to do it, what job I wanted, how is it going to look, who I'm going to work with, where is it going to be. Like, you have to be really intentional. And I limited the news that I was taking in. I mean, I took in the
Mhm.
information because I
Mhm.
wanted to be informed about
Yeah,
what was
yeah, for
going
sure.
on, but I wasn't doing a CNN 24 cycle, 300,000 people died today. No, because that was killing us, right?
Yeah,
And then, of course, it affected me with my family, because my family, both sides, my husband and I, were all very close, and we see each other all the time.
yeah,
So, my dad didn't care. My dad and I are super close, so he was like, I don't care if I die today. I'm seeing my daughter, and I want to see my grandson. Because my brother, who he lives in California, so I'm the closest child to him, and he's like, no, I don't care
yeah,
what happens. I need to see you guys. So he's continued to come over, but there, I just try to make it. I try to create a dynamic that was best for us to
yeah,
work through that, right? So I still managed to. I made sure I stayed connected to my friends and to
yeah.
my family. So it was through Zoom calls. I hated. I mean, we did Zoom parties. I mean, we all kind of did that stuff. So we
Yeah,
did the Zoom parties in the summer. I like to grill, so I would grill and have people over, and I
yeah,
try to socially distance much possible in the backyard, but try to do these things and was intentional about everything that I wanted to do. And I just stayed in prayer. I strongly believed
mhm.
in that. And I just decided, you know what? I try to see the positive in it. I was like, we all needed to take a beat. We all needed to, this was the universe's way of telling us we need to sit our asses down somewhere. We were doing too much.
Facts. Facts.
And it made me think about things differently. I started to look at my life differently, um, and what I want to do with it. Because it was
Yeah,
a constant reminder that at any given moment, Thanos was going to snap his fingers and the person next to you is going to disappear. And I didn't want that. So I wanted to make sure I created moments. And so I just started doing things I loved, whether it was watching a
yeah.
movie, whether it was
Mhm.
spending more time with my son, my husband, just trying to find little ways to just find little pockets of happiness as best as possible. Fast forward
Yeah,
to the fourth variant that we're in now. I'm sick of it. I'm over it. Um, but again, I'm continuing to find the silver lining, right?
yeah,
So now it's like, okay, well, this is happening, but this really means that we need to take care of ourselves better. So I
yeah,
wasn't making any resolutions. I don't make resolutions. I set intentions. And I set an intention of what I want to do, because when you set a resolution, you're setting up for failure, right? It's resolute means this is it, it's finite, but it's an intention. If I intend to do something, I'm going to continue to work at it. It's
yeah,
never going to end. You're going to continue to work at it.
100%.
So I started to do some of those things, and I started setting more boundaries. Like, because
Oh
of
my God.
COVID, I said that we are working a lot. I said earlier, I'm very accessible. I'm no
Yeah.
longer that accessible. I get an email at 7:30. Hey, I want to talk about this. Not today. It's not urgent. Talk about it tomorrow. My boss, he'll
Yeah.
text me. I'm like, and I literally, like, yesterday, my boss texted me at like 6:30. I'm at karate with my son. I sent him a screenshot. I was like, look, this is where I'm at right now. Can't talk. And he said, okay.
Yeah, and you know what? That kind of transparency should be allowed. Excuse
It,
me.
it
And that's
is. I
actually
mean,
one of the
you can
things.
see, what's going. You know what's in my house. You know what books I
Yeah,
got.
yeah,
So now you see me in my pajamas. There's no,
yeah.
all the gloves are off, right? And so I also started to feel burnout throughout this process because I
Mm-hmm.
am accessible, and I saw myself
Mm-hmm.
breaking down at home. I see myself being nasty to my family or just being in a mood. My husband and I both work from home. He won't see me for the entire day, and he's literally in the next room. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's an issue. So I started recognizing some of the areas that we need to set these boundaries on. And I had to talk to my boss about it. I was like, listen, I'm actually
yeah,
lucky enough where I love my boss and he's actually pretty understandable. So I had to talk and I said, listen, the way things are going, this is not sustainable for me. So we need
yeah,
to set these boundaries. And he understood it.
yeah.
So now it's up to me to uphold it. And that's
For
basically what
sure.
we have to do now is we have to start setting boundaries. This is here to
That's
stay. So we got to just set boundaries now.
and intention. Like you literally just you gave somebody a whole workshop for 2022. The intention part is huge, and the fact that you actually sat down and took time to write it. I just want to big up that because me being someone who really I've only become and am who I am because of the intentions that I set. And there is something about speaking your words and your intention. and then writing them down and then holding them dear to your heart and then taking action. Like the universe, there was something I read the other day, and it was a super long quote, but the basic part of this quote said, the universe loves when life is courageous,
Mhm.
and it blesses the or it exposes the courage to wonders and beauty and art and creation and the sense of like euphoria,
Mhm.
because when you really come down to it and you see like how life works and the, you know how much courage it takes to become from a single cell organism and to fight through so much stress to become an actual like fully multi-organized system. Like everything is through adaptation and courage. And right now what you said is so big because for me alone, I had to realize that my intentions had loopholes.
Yeah.
My intentions, it's like I set an intention, but I really don't believe I can do it, right? That's a big loophole. And so the belief for so long, it ruled me versus just the action of the intention.
Mhm.
Like I just really needed to take baby steps every day. That's it. And I finally learned that eventually. But in my early 30s, it did not. Like I tried to set intentions, but I had no boundaries. I had no boundaries whatsoever. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna set this intention. You want me to do what? Yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, let's go.
I
I'll do it
mean,
right now. You want me to put down
that was for
everything I
me
was doing?
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was what my situation was before too, because I would set these intentions, sometimes unrealistic based off of my characteristics and my flaws.
Yeah.
I have a great partner and my husband sometimes, and I started giving him his props recently with areas where I get mad at him when I'll share my stuff with him and be like, "Really, that's what you're gonna do? But how you gonna do that when you're doing X, Y, Z?" And I'm like, "Can't you just support me and just say yes?" He's like, "No," because he's like, "I know you," and I get mad. I get big mad at him where I'll catch an attitude, and then I get even more upset when he's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Right.
um,
Like a monkey.
also, no, it's true. But I
Yeah.
started, and then also I started to make myself. You have to think about when you're setting an intention. Why are you setting this intention? Who is this really for?
Exactly.
Who is it really for? And for me, my I failed at achieving said goals or intentions because they
Yeah.
were not motivated by something that I really wanted. It was I could tell you I'm a very competitive person in every part of I don't know why I think it's from childhood. I don't want to blame my parents, but it's it's really really bad. And I don't compete with other people per se. It's with myself. Like right now I'm
Yeah.
competing with 22-year-old Daphnee. I want to be back to that 5'5", 5'6", 130-pound girl, right? Like I'm not saying I'll never be that. I could be, but
Yeah.
it's going to take a lot for me to get there. But I get mad at myself when I'm not doing the things that 22-year-old Daph was able to do. And
Yeah.
you have to reset your mind and think about it. And also, too, one of the things that I had to learn, still learning, is giving yourself grace in those moments. Like, you're not the same person you were just a month ago, right? You might have acquired a few more responsibilities in the last 30 days, which and
Facts.
that's what my husband's always there to remind me of. He's always like, "Yeah, your intention is awesome, like it's beautiful, but really be realistic about. Are you really gonna get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work out when you know you just went to bed at 2:30? Stop it. Like you need to. There needs to be changes to reset to make it work.
But that
You
checks and
have to
balances
be
is also a big part.
yeah.
You know,
Having an
and
accountability partner with your intentions definitely helps.
it matters. Like even,
Yeah.
and I think if you can even, I mean, not everybody can do this, don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of relationship development to
Hmm.
have your spouse or husband or wife to be your accountability partner because anything they say will trigger you. But at the same time, that's the homie though. Like I'm gonna be mad for a little bit, but I'm gonna go back and think about it because at the end of the day, you're right. You're right. Or sometimes you're not, but you're also looking out for my best interest. And you know that I'm
Hmm.
like whenever I was really starting the whole company, I had no idea what I was doing and I was just running all cylinders. And Stephanie pulled me aside. She's like, "Hey babe, you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm amazing." She's like,
You're really not though.
"But you're like, you're snappy, you're super agitated all the time. You literally just walk in five circles. What's going on?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and just throwing up. Now all of a sudden I'm not okay. All of a sudden this and that. I'm overwhelmed with that. I got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. And it took me some time to finally get it. I was like, you know what? Oh, she's not against you, man. She's not
Mm-hmm.
against you. She's actually trying to help you. And it wasn't until that moment where she literally took me aside and she saw me, even though I was trying to put on this front, she saw me. And I had to step back and say, you know what? She's trying to help me. She got my back. She's trying to hold me accountable so that I don't die, like I don't burn out and just completely
Mm-hmm.
like develop some type of illness because I'm so stressed out. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, me and Mike, well, me and the Crash Bell team, we decided that hustle is over. Like we lived in this hustle mentality pretty much from the time we were conceived up until 2021, and that's it's played like that mentality, that mindset, that concept that you have to always be running on full cylinders. It doesn't work anymore, and it's not even, it doesn't even work for our generation. Like our family, our parents, our grandparents, they just keep your head down and work. But for us, we're like,
Yeah.
we smoking, we can't. We need to be
So
creative. We need to be out.
one of the things that myself and a few women I know who are in leadership specifically, or just bosses in in whatever that
Yeah,
looks like for you, right? A lot of us have this superwoman complex.
yeah.
I know I suffer from it tremendously. I will be transparent. I want to be that bitch to everybody, right? Like I
Hmm.
want my husband to look at me and be like, you know what, my wife, she got it all together. I want my friends to be like, yo, this girl, she got it. She's on it. And I love those compliments. I thrive on that.
Yeah.
That's my fuel, but that's where I burn out because
Hmm.
I'm not superwoman. I'm not. And it's hard for me to accept that because that's who
Yeah.
I imagine myself to be since a child. And that's because that's what was built in media, in movies, and all these
Yeah.
things that we're supposed to be that. And that's what's been hard for me to
Yeah.
let go. It's like you're not superwoman.
Well, that's actually, I commend you. And I myself have been letting specifically women, and well, specifically women of color, but women on around the board. But put it down. Like I see it in my sister, I see it in my mom, I see it in my cousins. Like all the women in my family, they literally have that same concept where they have to be superwoman to everybody. And you know what? I get it. I get it. I ain't gonna front. The hardest person to be on this whole planet is a black woman. I don't care what continent you're on.
It is.
It is the hardest person to be on this continent, on this whole planet, because of the biases and the stigmas that we put on black women, no matter where you are. It's like we love you, but we're gonna put you down as far as we can. It's like, what the hell's that? That's weird as
Well, I
shit. Ain't that's a
blame I
man
blame
fucking
I blame slavery. I blame everything on
woman?
slavery.
You already know. You already know.
I blame everything
It's
on
a whole.
slavery because women, we had to, especially when our men were taken away, we did have to
Hmm.
wear all the hats, right? We're plowing the fields, we're taking care of the
Yep.
kids, we're taking care of Master too when he needs to at night. We're doing all of it, and I think that trauma in that gene it transferred, and
For
we were
sure.
taught, and we're not only that, but we're taught that, right? Like
Yeah.
in most black families, I know West Indian, African, and American, we are the women. We're matriarchal. The women is who runs the
100%.
show, and I saw that in my own family. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my pops. He's amazing. He's a great dad. Very sensitive. He was more like my mom than my mom was. Like
Yeah.
my dad did all the quote unquote feminine things, the giving me the talk, showing me how to use a sanitary napkin, all of that. He did that. He cooked. I mean, he worked too, but when he was home and he did it. My mother, she was tough on me, man. She was, oh
Yeah.
my God. I used to be like, why are you acting like I stole your man? Like you talk to me crazy. And it made me hard. She talked to me, and then I took that same thing and the things that she could teach me and tell me, like, I want you to be a leader. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. She meant well. I don't fault her for it now as an adult, but I took those things that I was taught and now I applied it into my personal, professional life. And I took this boss
Yeah.
mentality, and it doesn't hurt or help rather that I took on a career in financial services. I was in banking for a while, working with in
Yeah.
in Morgan Stanley with the good old boys club, and than in media. And as a woman too, you have to like be loud and boisterous and really be strong and, you know, taking on everything. And I'm trying to like rule the world and like you said, put it down because I'm doing that outside. Then I gotta come home and then I gotta be the CEO of my household and paying the bills and doing this and doing that. And there's no room for me. And
Mm-hmm.
recently I found out, like, one of my girlfriends the other day, she asked me, when do you take vacation? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I really don't. I was like, well, I was on vacation in July. I went to Mexico. She was like, no, you took your husband for his birthday to Mexico. She was like, that wasn't
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah, yeah. What about you?
I was like, well, I usually hold on to my days for things if something happens, if my son is sick or if I got something going on, I gotta do it at the house. She was like, exactly. When do you
Mhm.
take time for you?
Exactly.
And when that question hit me, I was like, you know what? One of my intentions this year is to make sure I take off for me. Not like one of my friends for my birthday recently forced me to take a spa day. She bought it for me
Yeah,
in a hotel night and was like, I don't care. She took me there. She met me there to book it and made sure that I was there.
yeah,
Because I needed to just turn it off. And I said, well, if your friends are
yeah.
telling you this and your family's doing this, you really need to do it because you're gonna get sick and
You are.
you need to stop. So
Yeah, and commend your friend. I love that. I got friends like that too. It's just
yeah.
they are really they love us, man. And that's a beautiful thing that you do have that reflection, especially from a friend perspective. Um, I know we can go all day with many, many topics, but let's try to rein
Mhm.
this back on in because after about how COVID impacted your work life, um, a lot of people were throwing around this phrase of work-life balance, but with COVID, there is no work-life balance now, and so we've actually took on the phrase of integration. Like, what does work-life integration look like now? Because, like you said, husband's in the next room, I'm over here, I can hear him in the background. Maybe the kid comes in.
Mhm.
So many different things that can pop off, right? But
Mhm.
now there is no balance. There is no like scale. It's just all mushed into one.
Yep.
So with that said, how has the work life integration been on your managements or your skill sets, right? Because it sounds like to me you got some real good like management skills as far as how you manage your time and efforts. Because the way you put it earlier of how you do your morning and your things, like I'm taking tips, Daphne. I'm taking tips. So, but with that
um.
said, go ahead.
No, no, you were saying.
Oh, I was just going to finish the question off. So that was it. As work and life are integrated, how do you manage or integrate? Like what?
I integrated by I just I literally I pull out my calendar and I put time like okay like for example I decided Fridays are laundry days, right? So I've actually been doing laundry all week, but um I will if I'm getting up to go to the bathroom, I'm gonna stop and load the dishwasher. Um
Mm,
or and then come back to do what I gotta do. Or I'll set a timer to myself, okay, I know at 2:30 I'm gonna have to take the meat out to defrost it because I gotta cook dinner later. Like it's actually been helpful for me because I can do more
yeah.
at home. One of the things I decided I want to start doing though is like I did this in the beginning with my husband. It was that we used to actually have lunch together, like break
Mm.
away from the computer. I never really break away from this space here and go do it
Yeah.
with him. Um, so I'm like, I want to set time, like, okay, at least 1, 2 days a week, we'll just sit and have lunch together. So I can still spend time, just one-on-one time with him and be able to work again. Um,
Yeah.
or I leave. I literally was like, okay, I block out time on my calendar just to take a drive and just go get
Yeah.
air outside because I realize sometimes it's 2, 3 days I haven't been outside the house.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
just go take a walk and do certain things. So just your calendar is probably your biggest tool, best tool to
Yeah.
help with self care and just working on yourself because
I
you
agree
can
with that.
manage your time and also see what you're doing and see where you're spending your time and how you can and like
Hmm.
I use Google, so like it actually has an integration tool where it shows you how much time you're spending on meetings, how much time you're doing certain things, and I'm like, wait a minute, I
Yeah.
have too many meetings and half these things I don't even be on anymore, so I took them off. I was like, nope, not, I don't need to do that anymore, like this is not
Yep.
useful, or
Going
change the
back to that
frequency of the
boundary.
meeting. It's all
Yeah.
about setting boundaries. So that's basically, my takeaway from that, from COVID, from the work from home integration kind of thing is just making sure you're setting apart time. I mean, it's your job at the end of the day. This is your livelihood. You have to obviously dedicate a lot of time to it, but
Yeah.
really spend time and take inventory on how much time you're spending on a lot of these areas and think about, do I really need to be doing this? Right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer every message right away. You don't have to answer every email right away.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's what gets people really anxious, right? That they feel they have to get to it immediately, and you have like 17 things that you still need to do. And it's
yeah.
like I actually I set apart specific times of the day where I check my email, and you are so right. I love that what you said though about going to the bathroom and then putting in some in the dishwasher. That's actually pretty smart. Um, but like the calendar itself, if I didn't understand how to put my calendar on the wall so I can see it and I can visualize, and then I can go to another paper or I can go to my computer and start to plot out like what it is that I want. The calendar is something that's really huge because it also helps you to keep that intention going.
Mhm.
And that's something that we actually spoke about a bit earlier, that intention aspect, and this is absolutely beautiful. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into this next question because I hope that y'all got them tips because like that was huge right there because there is no balance. There's only integration. So we have one, but I think you already answered it about the keeping you grounded. Like as far as you leaving the house, that is a grounding technique to really just get away from everything. I love driving, so I'll just go take a drive out on the beach and come back.
Oh,
And they're like, "Did you go to a spa? You glowing in the cheekbones and everything?" I'm like, that's called that sun and that loving myself. That's all that is. But
no, for me, it's going to Target. I love going to Target and Home Goods.
yeah,
Those are my two favorite
yeah,
places. Give me Starbucks and my AirPods. I put on music and I just walk up and down the aisles.
there it is. See, we all have our thing, y'all. We all have our thing. But before we end, there's two really important, well, three important questions, but two specifically. What advice would you give your younger self, like as far as just big sister? What would you say to her?
Ooh. I actually, my one of my girlfriends, she's a life coach, and one of her methods is to talk to your inner child, your inner self,
Hmm.
because your younger self is still there.
Still
She or
there.
he or they are still there,
Hmm.
and she's always saying like to talk to them because it's a part of healing from your past.
It really is.
And so one of the things I would say to my younger self is take it easy.
Mm,
It was little because when I was younger, I was really I was forcing myself to be on this fast track to management and to be this boss and all these things, and none of that mattered. None of that mattered. And I wasted a lot of time, I think, with just perception that I
yeah,
wasn't focused. I didn't I lost focus, right? And so
yeah,
I would tell myself, just chill. What's gonna happen is gonna happen, and just take a beat, you know,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and just relax, relax.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the next question, well, I just actually wanted to just say something on the inner child stuff. For one, if it wasn't for me building a relationship with my inner child, you will not see this man today. You will
Mm,
see still go start mess, abrasive, talking, yelling, super Sagittarius and aggressive and didn't mind violence type of dude. But I didn't want to be that way because I knew
mhm,
that that was only fueled by the anger that my child was feeling still from all the stuff that I've been through. So
mhm,
me working on that inner child, like it literally changed the entire relationship I have with myself. And it
mhm,
helped me to heal my trauma a lot faster. So tidbit for all y'all, that inner child work. Um, and on the flip side, because we are working professionals, we want to look at us as a person. We want to look at our home and our life, but also because we're people who make decisions and influence other people. What would you tell your employees right now who are starting to hit that point of burnout? As I'm sure you know, if not already, they're close.
Actually, I've had this discussion recently with some people. You've worked with Mass Appeal before. We have
Yep.
actual programs in place to help with that. Um, I typically recommend everybody I call it like just finding their person that you can trust,
Mm,
who is who you can trust and to have those conversations with, and also just having a transparent conversation with your boss. Because in all honesty, you are no good to your company, whether it's your own company or the somebody that you work for. You're no good to anybody if you're at that point, and you're gonna just make a lot of mistakes and probably
Hmm.
cost the company a lot of money. I'm somebody who, I can tell you my last 4 years has been really shit when it came to work. I was, being a new mom, um, trying to adjust, becoming a mother, and I bought this home, so now I have a bigger responsibility. It's the mortgage, it's all these different things, and it was a lot. And I'm compartmentalizing, and I'm trying to do it all, and I fucked up in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And no one was honest enough to have those conversations with me, but nobody really knew what I was going through. And I
Hmm.
didn't really, and including my husband, right? No one really knew
Yeah.
how I was feeling or what I was experiencing. I'm just bottling it all in, and I'm just kind of doing it. And so I
Yeah.
say to people now, when you start to, don't even wait till you start to feel burnout. The minute you start to feel like you're frustrated, you vocalize it, because a lot of the times, if you're not gonna say something, like, no one knows, and they're just gonna keep piling on you.
No
And
one knows.
and when I onboard people, and I give them the real about the company. Like, I'm like, listen, we all work very hard, got a lot going on, we're in our growth stage, so it could seem a bit much. Identify like a person that you can relate to, like talk to, and if it's not anyone else, you could definitely talk to me, and usually everybody does come to me. Is
Yeah.
to express it, because we need to know what's going on ahead of time so we can help you.
Yeah. And that's
So
beautiful. That's really beautiful. For a lot of reasons. For one, because you're a person in that position who has to deal with people on a daily basis, but it also it's encouraging people to speak up. And I think that right now that is definitely something that most people need to do within the companies or within the corporations, even within schools, whatever industry that CrashBell finds himself in. That is actually the thing that is what we hear the most from people, which is they're afraid to speak up about something specifically because they're afraid of how it's going to look, if they're going to look like someone who's weak, if they're going to look like someone who is not capable of doing it. And so it's pretty obvious whenever you see it, like the employer or the boss. Whenever you see someone, you're like, this is terrible. This is like, why don't you just say something? Like, we would have just had a conversation and we would have just talked about it. But a lot of times, for some reason, the corporate not for some reason corporate culture has given us this thing that if we ever said anything, or if we're ever spoken up, or if we ever said we needed a break, then it'd be looked at as something that was negative.
well, caveat to that is, because it can be perceived that way, and especially in a big corporation, or you have a toxic boss where they don't care. You have to make sure that when you are expressing your feelings, that you're not emotional about it, especially as a woman, because then your mental capacity is questioned. Um, have the facts. Like for example, I can tell you right now, like, here's what my day looks like. Here's where I'm spending a lot more time than I should be. Come with a plan, or what you want
Hmm.
out of it. It'll be more respected, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're just coming in, I'm complaining, oh my god, I got this one, I can't. No one's gonna listen to you. No one cares, because everybody's busy. But if
Yeah.
you come in with an act, with a plan, like, here's how I spend most of my day, here's how I spend most of my time, and this is where it's affecting us, and come in with an actual, like, here are the problems, and come up with some solutions, someone will
Yeah.
listen to you more than not. And it's not
Yeah.
always going to be successful right away. You may actually have to
Yeah.
look into something else, but at least you're expressing that there's a problem
Yeah.
here.
And I
Yeah.
like what you said specifically because um, one of the programs that we picked up 2021 was about compassionate communication and learn how to communicate in general. And the first thing is, first you have to understand how you're feeling, because if your feelings are not checked, then you will be in a situation where you will react instead of
Yes.
respond.
Yes.
And what people don't realize is that emotions are great to experience and to feel, but whenever you're experiencing emotions that have to do with stress and frustration, you can't think or
Mhm.
talk. It
Mhm.
literally shuts down the frontal cortex of your brain. So you literally have no speech, and you have your speech impediment now. You can't even formulate words right. You're not thinking about the rational things that you're saying,
Mhm.
and you actually have no ability to be to understand what you're doing. You're totally red. You just
Mhm.
like you're go, all emotions flowing. And so
Mhm.
that is not an effective way to communicate. That actually is a system that is built to get you out of danger.
Yep.
Period. Like if a person was trying to attack you in the office and come over your head with a computer or a chair, then by all means, your emotions need to rile up and you need to let that system go. And you don't need to be rational. You don't need to talk. You don't need to try to, um, make your point. Your only point is to get out of there because you're in danger. But a lot
Mhm.
of times we'll go into a conversation with that already on our mind and the emotions already coming out. And so it's actually a detriment because it's not emotionally intelligent. And that's kind of one of the things that we're really trying to focus on with the compassionate communication is teaching people how to recognize, observe yourself, understand that you have biases that you've come to the table with already. And from
Mhm.
there, you need to then observe with empathy. You know what? Maybe everybody else is burnt out too. Maybe everybody else is dealing with everything you're dealing with.
Yep.
And for you not to have this mindset, now you're just throwing up on people, right? And it always comes across as negative because it is negative.
Mhm.
It's like that's something I was trying to tell one of my students. I'm like, well, if you look into a mirror, right, and you were to say, well, this is happening to me, and it's that, and the way I feel, and it's this and that, and this, what is the mirror going to do back to you?
The
He's like,
same
well, it's going
thing.
to
Yeah.
reflect back everything you're saying. And I'm like, okay, so can you tell the mirror to change? And then he's like, nah. And I was like, well, what if you was like, you better change your face, mirror?
Mhm.
He's like, no, you have to change what you're putting into the mirror. And I was like, you 13, homie. Exactly. I be trying to teach adults this all day. But that's the point. You have to change the way you come to the mirror because a lot of times that reflection and that emotion is really only you. And you're not actually really you're not looking at the situation as a whole. And
Mhm.
so with that said, that is amazing. And I'm grateful to not only know you, but also to know that you're a person of stature, you're a person of color in a position that you're in, and we're able to see how just by you being there is shifting the corporate culture. Just by you
Mhm.
being there is changing the way that we operate. And that's kind of the goal. We need to do this as a whole. It's going to take a lot of us. It's not going to take just one company, one person's idea. It's going to take us all being in action. And so I'm
Yeah.
grateful for you. I'm thankful for you. Everything you said today, so many gems, so many gems. And any of you young women out there that you're looking to, you know, push into these positions and move it up the ladder or even build the best and the biggest company, please listen to what this woman just said. Take it easy and understand that if you set an intention and you keep those baby steps going on a day-to-day basis, you will get there. But if
Yeah.
you are not taking care of yourself on the way there, whole foundation gonna crumble.
Yep.
Everything's gonna
Yep.
fall apart. And so, with that said, Daphne, before we end, we gotta let people know where can they
Yeah.
find you on social media? Where can they, if
Uh,
they needed to reach out and say, hey, you know what, I want you to be on my show too or something. How can they get
all
a
right,
hold of you?
cool. Sure. So you can reach me on for things like that, shows and stuff. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Dapphnee Pierre, DAPHNEEPIERRE. On social media, I'm on Instagram, Trejoli 20, I think is my name. Yeah. TRESJOLIE 20. And you can also email me, dpierre at Mass Appeal. And
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
We did have the pleasure to work with Mass Appeal last year. Whenever you have influential people in high positions who have a little bit of empathy in their heart, it's going to literally change everything. And so I'm just grateful once again for you. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. With that
Thank you.
said,
You
all of
too.
you, yeah, I'm actually about to get up out of here. It's dark now. I'm about to go enjoy
Yeah.
myself some me time. It's Friday. So because it's Friday, y'all don't know it's gonna be Friday when this airs, but I want y'all to go out and get yourself some me time this weekend. I want y'all to go out and just at least do two things for yourself. Something to make you smile and something to make you feel confident in your creation or your purpose. Me time is not always about taking a bubble bath, like Daphne said. Sometimes it's saying no. Sometimes it's taking a drive. Sometimes it's speaking up whenever you feel a certain way. Sometimes it's being honest with yourself about how you feel. Whatever the case may be, you got this. We got your back. If you want to follow us, you know where to do it, at CrashBell on all forums, crashbell.com. You can get more information about me. But blessings, thank you. And until the
Thank you
next
so
show,
much.
you're so welcome. We out.